Everybody says they want to be rich, but who's willing to sacrifice to be rich? They stay low, keep firing, play your position, do the work in the dark before you bring it to the light.
Does God want me to take that leap of faith?
That job, that employer is your first investor. Michael J. MacDonald, I consider myself a brand architect.
He is the silent partner of Earn Your Leisure, InvestFest, a whole EYL network.
He takes businesses and makes them grand, big, huge, gigantic. Give it up for Michael J. MacDonald.
Michael J. MacDonald is the name that they gave me.
Damn.
Proximity is power. Business before friendship. You can go into the hood and you can go on Forbes in the same day.
How do you make sure that the folks that rode with you from the beginning still get a ride with you today?
If you're mad at us because we evolved, again, that's because of you. Don't take nothing personal. The only limitation is your imagination.
Everybody needs this type of education. I've heard about this brand, Earn Your Leisure. A buddy of mine in San Diego, his name's Dan Fleischman.
That's my guy.
Yeah. That's everybody's guy, right?
He knows everybody.
He does. He is the ultimate people connector, and I love it. Yeah. But you built this brand, and I was kind of skimming your social media last night, and I was reading about you, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but as I understand it, you were never the face of the brand. You were kind of the one behind the scenes, kind of putting it all together. Right. But It seems like you made this conscious decision at one point and you're like, you know what? It's time for me to get some spotlight. So walk me through that metamorphosis, that change, why it happened, and what's the current state of Earn Your Leisure. And then we'll go backwards because I want to understand more about the brand.
So I've been building brands for over 20 something years, and I've been comfortable really sitting behind the scenes. It's been cool because I love to pour into people. If I can pour into you and help you build your brand, that satisfies me, that fulfills me, right? Earn Your Leisure, when we started Earn Your Leisure, let's say my financial situation wasn't the best because this was my second time going broke, right? When we started Earn Your Leisure. And I wouldn't say I was broke. Broke is relative to everybody's situation, but I wasn't in the best situation financially, right? I owed a lot of money out. So I wanted to keep my name away from the brand because I knew the brand was gonna be big. As big as it got, didn't know. But I knew we were gonna have a big brand because we were doing something that no one else was doing. So my first thing was I didn't want to have produced by Michael J. MacDonald. I didn't want my name on anything in the beginning. So as we grew, and we started to make our financial situations has changed. I was able to, get myself back into a good standing. So I started to be out more. I started to post a couple more pictures being out, like a part of the brand and things like that. And I was comfortable. I paid my dues. I paid my debts. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So, but the real reason why I wanted to come in front of the camera was because I didn't realize how powerful branding is until 2 years after Earn Your Leisure. Because I built Rashad's personal brand. I helped build his personal brand so high that Rashad, without Earn Your Leisure, without InvestFest, without EYL University, his personal brand has become so valuable that he can do whatever he wants, right? And I started to realize that I'm building this legacy brand, and my kid, I had a kid, now I had a kid. My kid is gonna look at this legacy brand that I helped build, and he's gonna be like, where are you, daddy? Because I'll never forget this day as long as I live. Troy and Rashad was on a news thing. It was one of our first big things that we did, on TV. And my niece calls me. It's like, hey, Uncle Mike, I seen you guys were on Earn Your Leisure. Where were you? See, you were on the news channel, whatever it was. It was like Forbes. It was something big. And she was like, where were you? And that hit me. And I had to explain to her that I'm the back end, and that was the moment that I started to change my mind. I didn't have kids yet, right? Wasn't expecting kids yet, but that was the moment I did the mind shift. And it planted a seed, like her planting a seed. And I said I could never have that be my kids if I ever have kids one day. And that was the ultimate decision.
No, I love it. Because let me walk the listeners just right back through it, and you can kind of give me this post-mortem recap. But essentially, when you first started the company, you weren't on good financial footing. You had made some mistakes. Sounds like maybe you took on some debt. Maybe you weren't servicing it responsibly. Maybe your credit was, not as good as it could be. Yeah. And so you feel like you've got a wagon and a horse. And if you attach your wagon to their horse that's taken off, maybe you're going to slow them down. Maybe you're going to have, force them to change direction because they've got this albatross attached, right? Right. Somebody who didn't do good by their name is now stepping on their brand. So it's better to just stay behind the scenes. Now, the question that I want to ask you, and it's a good one, I think for folks that want to be, involved in business and setting up business, especially small businesses, where you've got multiple partners, but one isn't in the right credit situation. Now, they want to be attached to the brand. They want to help build. They've got the ideas. They have the connections, the resources. Maybe it's their inspo. It's their inspiration. What do you tell folks, right, when there's a group of 3 or 4 guys and one of them is in a situation like you used to be maybe a decade ago, right? How do you form a corporation knowing that one of them is likely an albatross and could force the brand to go at a slower pace or in a different direction because they didn't make good financial decisions?
Well, the most important thing is everybody has their moment, right? Everybody has their everybody can't play in the game at the same time, right? My moment wasn't the first 3 years of this company, the first 4 years of this company, right? So I think if you're going to be a team player, you got to be a team player. We always said, remember why we started, right? What is bigger than us? That was our slogan, is bigger than us. If we ever had disagreements or if one felt this way, one felt that way, at the end of the day, it's bigger than us, right? Because we wasn't helping our immediate families. We weren't helping the people that we knew. We were helping changing the scope of the financial literacy scope of the world, right? So it was bigger than us. And we said this from day one. We never started Earn Your Leisure to make money. We started Earn Your Leisure because the people wanted more information from the information that Rashad was given on his personal Instagram. So that was the whole premise of why we started. They wanted a podcast. They wanted a longer format of information, which related to a podcast. And we started a podcast because the people wanted more information. So remember why you started. And that's why a lot of these big brands break up. These podcasts are breaking up because they started this podcast and then they get to a certain point of celebrity, fame, fortune, and money. And they start to forget why they started right here. The principles of why you started should not be forgotten. And I think if you are someone that has bad credit, if you are someone that right at the moment, you can't attach your name to this brand, just stay low. As Troy would say, stay low, keep firing, play your position, and it's gonna be a time where you can step out and be a part of the brand.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that. It's like ascribing a certain portion of the equity, right? Ascribing it to nothing and leaving it, let it sit there, let it marinate for a moment. Fix whatever issues outstanding that you have. And when it's time for you to re-enter the picture, then you can. I love that. Okay. All right, good. Yeah.
No, I said if you're a partner in a brand, you don't have to be like, I have the best position. I got a beautiful life. I make a decent amount of money. I have my dream home. I have my dream car. I have everything that I want. I have. I can go out into the public looking how I want to look. I don't have to stay at the certain, like everyone, I don't want to be famous. Famous is not a big thing, right? But I want to leave a legacy. I want to be known. Like I want my kids to look up to me and say, Dad, I look up to you, Dad. I want to be like you, right? And kids don't understand like the back end, or they don't understand like I wanted something to like Earn Your Leisure is Troy and Rashad's baby, right? It's their baby, right? Now that's it's part of my legacy too, 100%. But now what am I gonna leave for my kids? Like, what is my legacy, right? And that's what I'm working on now. So you don't have to be famous. I mean, as long as you're getting your percentage, I get my percentage, I get paid what I'm supposed to get paid. That's all that matters, you know? And you take that, it's like a job, right? You have a job, right? If you have a job, everyone thinks having a job is bad. Having a job, that employer is your first investor. They're giving you they're giving you money to invest. You take that money, you invest it into your dream. You invest it into the market. You invest it wherever, but you take that money, invest it into your dream.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. And so the advice, you know, I listen, I couldn't agree with you more so. The idea of starting your own business is so tempting, right? It's like the apple, right? With Adam and Eve, right? It's the temptation is there to want to start your own business. And for the most part, I would say most folks that want to start their own business likely are undercapitalized, but they do have employment. And you said something interesting. You said your employer is your first investor. Now, how do you give advice to someone who they're currently employed, they're earning a good wage and it's stable, and they got a family, they got medical and they got dental and they got PTO, but they've got this dream, this distant dream. And that dream could be something as simple as wanting to go off on their own as a plumber, or wanting to start a clothing line, or wanting to become a recording artist, right? It's a passion. And it's funny, there's a guy named Scott Galloway. I'm not sure if you know who he is, but he's an NYU professor. He has a podcast that's, you know, crazy popular. He's a writer. He's gone through a few exits. He's worth a few $100 million. And he's always being interviewed. And his advice is always, people who tell you to follow your passion are already rich. And I think it's interesting because you may not know him, but yet you guys are in perfect alignment because you're like, hey, if you're currently employed, play your position. Understand that that employer is financing your dream, but it's up to you on how you want to employ those dollars. So give the listeners an understanding of, I'm currently employed. I've got stability. I've got this distant dream that I want to achieve, that I want to connect with, but I don't know. I don't understand the timing, and I don't understand, does God want me to, you know, I'm going to bring God into this if you don't mind, but it's like, does God want me to take that leap of faith? What are the signs that I should be watching for?
Well, my wife has a scripture. I don't know the scriptures by heart, but the basis of the scripture is, do what's in the dark, do the work in the dark before you bring it to the light, right? What that means is, put that work in, work on, get the skills. I want to be a speaker, a public speaker. I started speaking publicly 2 years ago. I shouldn't have been speaking publicly until now, because now I'm more comfortable. I'm more polished. I articulate myself much better. The thing is, people see me articulate myself as I was learning how to articulate myself, versus you should sit back, right? You know, your dream is to be, my dream is to be a well-known public speaker, right? What is that to tell? You gotta do the reps. I go online, I go on YouTube every single morning at 9 a.m. on every weekday morning, 9 a.m., right? What does that allow me to do? That allows me to put in the reps. So put in the work, right? Put in the work. And at some point, you can come into the light, right? Depending on what your dream is, find out who's the number one person in that industry. If you can hire them, hire them. If you can't, learn as much information from them, watch them, become immersed with their content. Learn everything it is in that field, you know, with all the resources you possibly can. And as you get greater in that skill, whatever it is, you bring it to fruition.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's funny you say that, because everybody talks about the greats, right? Kobe Bryant, for example, when you ask him, or when you asked him, past tense, like what his day looked like. He would say, well, I wake up at 4 a.m. and I go to the gym, and then I work out, and then I come home and I eat something, and then I go back and I go to the gym. It's like this guy he's already shot 1,000 basketballs and done strength and conditioning training before all the other players wake up. Yeah. So this is to your wife's point, right? Which is you got to build in the dark. And I think so many people, they love the view at the summit, right? At the top of the mountain, but nobody wants to ruck up that hill. And so the question that I was really trying to get you to sort of shed some light on is like, you have stability, you're employed, PTO, medical, dental, the kids are taken care of, there's food on the table, but yet you've got this distant dream to achieve. Like, is it a matter of taking a percentage of what you earn and putting it into an index fund and letting that grow responsibly and conservatively? And then once you're ready to take that leap of faith, you know that you're well capitalized, that you can buy the equipment, that you can hire an employee, that you can buy that work truck and still have X amount months of savings, right? That's what I'm trying to get to. Like, do you have advice for listeners about that?
Well, the first thing is, I'm going to say, you can have a dream, you can have a passion, you can have a vision, but the first and foremost, you have to write it down, right? If I can't touch it, it's not real, right? You got to touch it. Now, as you're saying, of course, I could say the natural thing, putting a percentage away, put 5% away until you get to a point where you can take a leap of faith, whatnot. But the most important thing is really believing in that vision. You can say all you want. Everybody says they want to be rich, but who's willing to sacrifice to be rich? I sacrifice friendships. I sacrifice relationships. I sacrifice cars, materialistic things. I've sold things, just so we can keep this engine going to fulfill my dream. I believe so heavily. I went -0, not 0. I went -0 because I knew what the outcome was going to be, right? So at the end of the day is you have to believe in your dream. If you don't believe what you see yourself, like people look at me like this guy's crazy, like especially 2 years ago. Now it might be a little believable now, right? When I say I'm gonna be a well-known speaker, right? Because like people see me on, like I'm on 3-4 stages a month now, right? So it's a little different. Now they're like, damn, he's really putting in his rep. I built a whole stage and I spent $200,000 to build a stage in my house. A whole super stage, right? Why? Because I really believe it. I'm willing to risk it all to achieve what I've never had, right? To get what you want, you got to do what you've never done. And that's what I've always been about. I'm always going to put everything on the line to get what I want. And if you don't believe in that, if you don't believe in the vision, then it ain't real. So before all this investing, before all of this stuff, write it down and really believe it. It's in my heart. It's in my heart. It's right here.
It's funny that you talk about the ability to manifest something and that you have to believe it. And if you don't write it down, then it's not real. If it's not tangible and if you can't touch it. But what I want to ask you a question about is your circle, right? Specifically, your circle matters. And for so many people, whether they're entrepreneurs or they're just your ordinary consumer that wants to take that leap of faith eventually into becoming the master of their own destiny as an entrepreneur, the circle matters. And I'm oftentimes reminded of young entrepreneurs that are seeking advice from friends and family, uncles and aunts and grandparents, people who haven't taken that same leap of faith. So I'm going to ask you something, and I want you to sort of explain your take. From my perspective, because I used to be a young entrepreneur, right? I started a company at 24 and I've grown into $1 billion company, right? I never sought advice from people who I wouldn't allow to be a board of directors at my table. Meaning that if they hadn't gone through the same journey that I was on, why would I take their advice? If I'm ill, if I'm feeling sick, I'm going to take somebody's advice who isn't a medical doctor. And by that same token, if I'm feeling sick, I'm not going to go to a chiropractor and ask them what their position is. Meaning, like, if I'm trying to build $1 billion brand and I got an uncle who owns a pizza parlor, I don't necessarily feel like he's gone through what I need to go through in order to unlock the success of that journey. So talk to me about the importance of the right circle and being able to say, you said goodbye to some friendships, right? You said goodbye. And that doesn't mean goodbye forever, but you did say goodbye. So talk to me about the circle.
Well, you said it, right? And the most important thing is you give advice backwards, you get advice forwards. Break it down. Proximity is power, right? If I'm going to give someone advice, I'm giving advice to people that have not achieved what I have achieved. But if I want to get advice, I'm going to get advice from people that are ahead of me. The more people you surround yourself with that are doing well, the next thing that's going to happen is you're probably going to do well, because it's positive. What is that word? Positive. I can't figure it, but you're going to fit, like, no one wants to be the bad apple of the thing. I just was talking to my friend the other day, right? And I'm like, yo, listen, the thing about companies is, like, there's 3 partners, right? Just say me, Troy, and Rashad, right? And if Troy is doing a bunch of work and me and Rashad just slacking, we're gonna feel like we're gonna feel obligated to actually try to do more work to catch it, to make Troy not feel like he's the only one in this partnership working, right? Because we've put ourselves in a circle of high achievers. Now, if you put yourself in a circle of people that are not, they don't have a good work ethic, they're not disciplined, they don't speak with wisdom, what's going to happen is you become a part of that. Now, I do say everyone has their own ambitions, everyone has their own discipline, everyone has their own, vision of where they want to be. Like me, I feel like I can be around my friends that are probably not doing the best financially, but I also could be around my friends that are doing the best financially. The thing about yourself is you have to have the discipline, and you gotta have the vision that, like, I always say this, I see here, like, I see myself over here, right down there. You see it right down there. I don't let noise over here or over there disrupt this vision over here. And if you're able to do that, it really doesn't matter who you're around. The most important thing about being around high achievers or being around people that are successful is access. Getting to know things that you didn't know, right? Because you don't know what you don't know. Think about it like this. Troy and Rashad got a relationship with NVIDIA. NVIDIA is one of the biggest companies in the world, especially right now. Because you are a part of the Market Mondays community, right? We picked 100 people that, that are able to go visit NVIDIA's headquarters and meet NVIDIA's executives. That's proximity. That's power. That is not something you can pay for, right? That is something that is built with relationships, because they were around this person that knew this person, and that gives you access. So I will say being around the right people is going to give you the access that you wouldn't normally get being around people of not, success patterns.
Yeah, right. That haven't seen that same success.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And it takes me to another point, which is you're doing this with partners. And it reminds me, I'm a runner. I don't know if you run, but I'm a runner. And one of my favorite runners, his name's Kipchoge.
I'll give you a mile. I'll give you a mile.
Pardon me?
No, I said I can give you a mile. You said you don't know if I'm a runner. I can give you a mile. You know what I'm saying?
You give me a mile. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I can give you a mile.
Yeah, no, I'll take a little bit more if I can get a little bit more. But Kipchoge is widely regarded as like the greatest marathon runner of all time. And he has defied the odds. And in fact, one of the marathons that he's completed, he was able to complete a full marathon in under 2 hours, which, you know, has never been done before. And
6 miles
it's
or
funny that the run, yeah, it's wild, dude. That guy's so fast. But one of the reasons that he was able to achieve that level of success had to do with this controversial aspect of his running, which is that he ran with a team of 41 pacers, people that ran with him shoulder to shoulder, that helped him achieve the pace that he needed to break this world record. You're running a marathon, right? This is not a race. This is a marathon, right? And you're doing it with your partners. Now, oftentimes you see this in the music world for sure. Think of what happened to Kelly Rowland or something versus Beyonce, right? They're running the marathon together, and somebody turns to Beyonce and says, you know, you've really got the voice. You've really got the look. You don't really need these pacers over here. Let's just take you and your brand and let's just run solo. So right now you're running with pacers, or your partners are running with pacers, and the pacer is you. And you guys are breaking records and achieving this level of success that really young Black professionals have not been able to do, specifically in America. I will sort of put an asterisk there. Do you run harder, faster with those pacers, with your partners? Or are there times in that marathon, in that journey, where you kind of look to your left and you kind of look to your right and you're like, you know what? You're weighing me down. I can run faster without you. Or are they vice versa looking at you going, because you talked about resentment a little bit earlier, right? Are they looking at you going, you're holding me back? And then how does that conversation play out? How do you ameliorate that situation? How do you fix it? How do you triage it? How do you make sure that you guys continue to run as a team?
It goes back to what I first said. Remember why you started. You got to remember why you started, right? And, you know, everybody has a part to play. I said that as well. Sometimes I'm not going to be a part of some of the things they do. Sometimes they're not going to be a part of the things I do. The thing is, the tree is earn your leisure, right? But I don't have to be on every branch. They don't have to be on every branch. Troy might be on a branch that me or Rashad's not on. I might be on a branch that me and Rashad's on. So everybody has a role to play in this thing. And the foundation is why we're doing it, right?
Yeah.
We want to better our lives. We want to better our friends and family lives. We want to change the landscape of financial literacy with the Black community, or even just everybody. Because I don't want to be signified as a Black company, right? Or like, yeah, we give information, and most of our audience is Black, but the information applies to everybody, right? It applies to everybody. It doesn't just apply to white, Black, dark, brown skin. It applies to everybody. It's unfortunate that we get, deemed as a Black business, right?
I see.
Because it's not fair. It's really not fair, right? But at the end of the day, you got to remember why you're doing it. And I might not, like, I'm an outgoing person, right? You might not want to take me to the White House. You might not, right? But then again, in this White House organization, I might go, right?
You should be able to go.
You never know what's going to happen. But when they went to go to the vice president at the time, Kamala, or however you say her name, they went to dinner. Kamala. You might not want to invite me there, right? Because I might be too animated, all right? So, but I can't take offense to that. You can't. This is the number one rule in business. You can't take nothing personal. Yeah. It's business. Business before friendship. Business before everything. If me and you go, we can have the best friendship in the world. Me and you go into business together, that is the first priority, our business. Our friendship is secondary.
I get it. Yeah. It's delivering value to the shareholders. But you know what? I'm going to ask you something about race, because I feel like you if I brought it up, you almost looked at the dealer and you said, you know what? I'm a split the eights, and I'm a you know whatever. I'm a double down, if you will. Right now, Earn Your Leisure, like you said, the key demographic, right, are Black folks that specifically want to achieve this financial literacy. And I think
Yes.
so many businesses, they build off of a foundation. Now we'll just take your brand in specific, since you're on the podcast, but you're delivering value to this, to this client avatar, which is, Black. And you're like, but don't pigeonhole us. This advice transcends race, right? It goes to every human being on earth. You could deliver this in Germany, right? You could be in Austria. You could be in, Madrid or Lisbon, right? Everybody needs this type of education. What is the future of this brand, right? Because from what I've seen, when I look out into the audience, right, it's Black folk. So how do you, but you're like, hey, but don't pigeonhole us, because this advice is pertinent to everybody, regardless of race. So what is the evolution? What is the story arc of the next 5 years where you take this brand and you don't necessarily, or maybe you do, I don't know, but do you just kind of focus on this key demographic, or do you go wider?
I mean, I think in the beginning, what kind of, signaled us out as a Black company is you got two Black dudes in hoodies talking about financial literacy. That resonated with our culture, with our community, right? Because when you start doing storytelling about how 50 Cent sold vitamin and got a percentage, and Ron Artest didn't take the percentage, he took the money, but you're applying financial literacy to things like that, to stories that we understand. We know 50 Cent's lyrics, we know Nas's lyrics, we know Jay-Z's lyrics, right. And you're like, you can literally dissect Jay-Z's lyrics when he was talking about, in Dumbo, like he missed a deal in Dumbo and he felt dumb. Like, okay, let's break that down. What happened in Dumbo? Dumbo's our backyard. We're all from New York. Dumbo was a community that was the slums. It was the slums. And Brooklyn got poured a lot of money into it, where you could have got these big buildings for pennies on a dollar, that's right? And now they're going for millions and millions of dollars just for an apartment, where you could have got the whole building for that. So when you break down those... Sorry?
I didn't mean to interrupt us. He could have bought the block.
Exactly. So when you break down those lyrics and give it a twist with real estate, how valuable is that? Now it's not. It's like, I don't like when you say it's dumbed down. Like, people say we dumb down the comment, and I'm a product of that too. I used to say dumb down. I don't do that anymore, because we're not dumb. Our audience is not dumb. The thing is, I was in special education. Right? Why was I in special education? Because you're teaching me something I'm not interested in, right? So most of our community is interested in rap. We love rap, we love Jay-Z, right? Most of our people love Jay-Z. So when we start talking about Jay-Z, boom, I got your attention. Now I pull back the layers of what he's talking about. Now I got your attention, I can pour in the financial literacy. So that's basically what we did. So that was the foundation of how we got people's attention and how we exploded so fast. So that was the immediate target audience. But now our content is refined. Us as people have evolved. Our skill set has evolved. So now we are educating on a different level. And if you expect us to teach on a level that we first started, then we would be doing us a disservice and yourself. You have to learn. We're giving you the information just as we get it. Right? So take our information, pour into yourself, execute on the information, and so you can evolve. So this information up here wouldn't feel so foreign. But if you just come in, go back and watch the beginning. It was there. It's up. It's free. But don't pigeonhole us, because we're now evolved with the content. We're supposed to evolve. Were we supposed to stay the same forever?
Yeah.
So now our content is open. Our content now is really relevant to everybody, because they're not wearing hoodies anymore. Very once in a blue, we wear hoodies. They look like, fine young gentlemen, clean cut. and they're on. You're going on Forbes, right? This was on a Wednesday. I'll never forget this. This is on Forbes on Wednesday morning at like 9 o'clock. At 2 p.m., they were in the hood on West 4th playing in a basketball league. That right there, that is the biggest thing that these big companies miss and they don't have. They don't have the connection with the people and have the connection with the what is it with the prime, whatever it is. Hello, are you there? Did you cut out?
No, I'm still here. I'm trying to follow you.
Mainstream. So they got the mainstream and you got the people. Like you can go into the hood and you can go on Forbes in the same day. Never been done before.
Yeah, yeah. No, I get that. And that speaks to a lot of different companies that are like, for example, Apple, right? They wanted to get after, right, the same avatar maybe that early on you were focused on. So Beats by Dre was a natural, right? Was a natural acquisition. And now they got their ear. But how do you not dilute, I guess is my question. I hope I didn't use the word dumb down, but how do you not dilute the folks that rode with you from the get-go, from the jump? How do you not dilute their importance, right? You said yourself, you're like, it was two guys in hoodies on stage. Now we're clean-cut gentlemen, fine young gentlemen. How do you stay relevant and authentic to the folks that were with you from the jump, where maybe they're still not at the point where they're fine young gentlemen or whatever, fine young females, right? How do you make sure that the folks that rode with you from the beginning still get a ride with you today?
It's a thin line. It's a real thin line. The importance is we still do in-person events, free in-person events. The way we talk is still the same. It's still that, but it's a really thin line. And, I think the principles don't change. The core of why you're doing it don't change. And it's safe to say that it's more people without financial literacy than it isn't, correct? Is that safe to say?
Yeah, I would say so. Absolutely.
So, with us refining our content, with us evolving, it does dilute the audience a little bit, because now you're talking to a audience of not the same size. Versus to when we first started, we were talking to a wider audience. Now we're talking to a smaller audience, of course, because the information has evolved.
Yeah.
But we still have Stocks 101 in our community. We still have all Real Estate 101, the Home Buyer's Blueprint. We still have all the information that, like, once you watch those different courses or videos or classes, it's going to put you up to par. So we still give you access to all those different things. But honestly, if you want to change, you'll change. But if you don't want, if you're mad at us because we evolved, then again, that's because of you. Don't take nothing personal. That's a you feeling, not a us feeling.
Do you ever talk about that on stage? How you're changing, how you're being coached in the way that you talk to you said the word articulate like 20, 30 minutes ago. You're like, I'm learning how to articulate better. Do you feel do you feel like you need to?
All the time. My whole journey has been documented. Like I said in the beginning too, I wish I didn't document the first 2 years. I wish I started to come out I wish this is my come out right now. Because right now I'm very confident in what I do. I feel what I do. I'm energetic of what I do. I love what I do. I'm in a great space mentally, physically. Like, this was the time I should have came out, but I didn't. Like, whatever, you can't change what happened. You only can change where you're going.
Yeah.
But the good thing is you get to see my whole document, my whole journey, the last 2 years of my journey of me becoming a public speaker.
Yeah. And it's funny how, and you can tell me if you agree with this or not, before we find the level of success that I think that we're all searching for, and it's hedonic treadmill. I won't discount that, right? You get the money, you get the car, you get the house, and then there's the comparison. And the comparison removes all joy in life. I will say that, because the benchmark's changed. What you're comparing yourself against has changed, right? Meaning that if you started out, like you said, if you started out in Brooklyn, you know, then you're comparing haves and have-nots, absolutes, right? It's binary. Then you get a little bit of something and you decide, you know what? I'm going to change my benchmark, which then keeps you perpetually on this hedonic treadmill. You want more. You got the house. Well, now you need a summer house. But you've never been skiing. So now you need a condo in Aspen, right? So it's like,
You're right.
right? You keep accumulating, right? Because like you said, you keep advancing, you keep changing, you keep metamorphosizing. Think about the larva. It starts out as a larva. It becomes a butterfly. We don't ridicule butterflies for being butterflies. Like, you changed, man. You used to be just this larva. Remember when we were just both larvae? Nobody ridicules a butterfly, but people will ridicule you for growing out, for outgrowing, let's say, their circle of influence. And so it's interesting as, like, once you achieve some sort of steady baseline where you've got money socked away for retirement, you've got a home, like you said, you've got this amazing $200,000 stage that you built on property, you got some cars, although I would say cars, that's a misguided step, but that's me giving you advice being older than you. I think, you know, that's great for appearances. It's great as aspirational content, but it's like grasping at water. You can grasp at water as hard as you can. You pull back your fist, you ain't got nothing.
No, it's gonna be.
No, because as soon as the 2026 comes out, there's the 2027, and everyone's like,
It's
"Well,
the
you got
journey.
the 20."
It's all about the journey.
That's right. So
It's
my
the journey. I mean, I'm listening. My bad.
No, you're okay.
Right.
My real point in saying all this is not to ridicule you for talking about you got the you know, you've got these items, you've got these things, because I do know, like you said, you're a father, you have 2 children, you're in a loving relationship, you have the ethos that matters, you have the core tenets of success that matter. But my question to you is the benchmark. The benchmark changes, and people get lost in that journey, meaning that folks that came along for the ride, they want to see you do well, but they never really want to see you do better than them. Does that make sense? That's a fact.
Bar. That's a bar.
There's only one man in this world who wants you to do better than him, and that is your father. That's the only man. Yeah.
God.
Yeah. So talk to me about outgrowing folks, whether it's your inner circle, whether it's family that didn't believe in you. Talk to me about that internal strife, that emotional bank account that became overdrawn, and how you deal with that.
I mean, that's an interesting question. The importance of that is, I really don't focus on the noise. And I think it's noise. Like, if someone is upset at me, or if I hit their ego, they're mad that I'm doing well. I had family members that, you know, you can tell the aggression that they might text me that, damn, you couldn't invite me here, you didn't call me. I don't have the capacity to deal with stuff that is taken away from my future, right? Where I want to go, my goals in life, my aspirations, my dreams. But I will say something, though, is the gift and a curse about someone like myself, that benchmark keeps rising. You're never satisfied.
Right.
There's no satisfactory point for me, right? There's no, like, if I get to here, then I want here. Like, if I get to 2025, I want the 2026, right? So I think the importance of all of this is you got to focus on the journey, right? I got 2 children now, right? And the other day, me and my wife were looking at the pictures, right? Looking at the pictures from a couple years ago. I got a 3-year-old. I got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. But we were looking at a couple pictures from 2 years ago from my oldest son, and he was just so adorable, so cute, so, like, innocent. He's still innocent, but you started to, like, remember those times of those pictures. And I realized something in that moment. I realized that I could never get back my son at 1 year old. Those moments, right, are frozen in that time. He's 3 now. He's a totally different kid now, right? But it made me do something. It made me appreciate this part of his life to here he is now, that journey. And it's just like in life with everything else. Appreciate the journey, and you will find fulfillment in the journey, not the materialistic things, not the relationships, not the anything in your life, like the money, whatever you got to get to, you're gonna get to it. You're gonna get to it. But understand that the journey that you took to get there, that's the appreciation, not where you got. And I think that is what has fulfilled me thus far.
Yeah, no, it's the gratitude. So as we sort of wrap things up, I want to ask you, I want you to sort of self-reflect on something. We go through life and there's an ebb and a flow, right? Like the waves of an ocean, right? There's ingress and egress. There's ebb and flow. There's pull and push. These are the forces of nature. And as you're on this journey as an entrepreneur, things can go wrong. One of my favorite African authors, Chinua Achebe, wrote this book called Things Fall Apart. The French have this phrase that the fate of glass is to shatter, right? What I'm trying to tell you is that some things were meant to be broken. Some things, in Japanese pottery, for example, when a pot breaks, like a clay pot breaks, there's a Japanese art of repairing that pot where you draw attention to the cracks in that piece of pottery and you put it back together to demonstrate, to show people how valuable it was to put it back together, because the breaking tells the story. Was there a moment in this journey that you've been on with your buddies where things did fall apart and you had trouble? Because I remember you used this phrase, you said, remember why we did this. Remember why we wanted to do this, right? The impetus, right? Why we wanted to build this. Was ever a point where, in building this, whether it was like you did an InvestFest maybe a few years ago and things didn't go right and people felt, sort of maligned, I don't want to say hoodwinked, but they felt like they didn't get what they wanted. And so, it was more of like, it was a vibe more than there was a focus on the individual sort of investor or student to educate them. And then how do you fix that? How do you triage that? How do you learn from, Apple, every time I turn around, there's an iOS update, is there not? That is the story of business, which is like, you've arrived, but by the time you arrive, so have your competitors. And so there's got to be a part of you or your company that's always thinking in advance. That's not comparing yourself to competitors, but rather is looking in the mirror and nothing is staring back. That is where man, right, finds his humanity. You are on this journey alone. And so you're blessed that you've got these guys with you. But was there ever a moment where like, you were on shaky ground and you didn't have the answer to move forward? Did that happen? How did you keep moving forward?
Well, that's a very complex question. I could talk about InvestFest where the first year, everybody, like you just said, Apple comes up with updates all the time. Now, if something's wrong with your iPhone, are you going to go and bash Apple on online?
It would be silly to do so.
Not. If something happens with this small company that just started a festival because they want to pour into their people, if things don't go exactly how planned, are you going to go and bash that small company? Yeah, you are.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Yeah. So unfortunately, absolutely.
The good thing is you don't take nothing personal. You listen to what people say and you build on top of that. You correct it. Like they said the sound was bad, we fixed the sound. They said they felt that like was taken advantage of. They felt taken advantage of because the first year we had an offer to join one of our offers, right? The first year we presented that at InvestFest, they felt like taken advantage of, like we charged them $250 and now they want more money from us. We never offered on stage ever again. So it's really important to listen to people when you are delivering, when you are offering something out to the public. It's really important to listen to the people, even if it's a bad delivery from them, because every joke, every lie, everything has some truth to it, right? Everything has a little bit of truth to it. Like you might joke around saying, "Oh, that festival, it was dope, but that shit was whack," right? Or something like that. It has some truth to it, right? So you just because the delivery isn't of liking, listen to the message. And that is the really most important thing that we've done. Even though the delivery sometimes on a critique of how we presented events, presented webinars and offers and communities or whatever we did, we listened to the message and we corrected it through that message. So don't take anything personal. Now, personally, working with 2 other partners, I mean, you're gonna always come into, you're gonna come into disagreements, you're gonna come into conflict. But in therapy, a couple sessions ago, my therapist was like, just because you have conflict doesn't mean you have to have a problem. Doesn't mean you have to have a argument. Conflict gives you the opportunity to grow, right? To become closer, right? And I think that's where we have the respect with each other. And when we do have conflict, it gives us the opportunity to discuss that conflict, to overcome that conflict and become closer because of that conflict. And I think anytime that you have a partnership with someone, you have 2 different minds, right? It's 2 different decisions, 2 different odds. Come to the table and we're gonna have some uncomfortable conversations, right? There are gonna be some uncomfortable conversations. But 1, don't take it personal. 2, listen to the message. And 3, let that bring you together, not further apart.
Yeah. No, I think that's brilliant. And I love how open you are in talking about, talking about seeking therapy and seeking help, because there is like a natural stigma that's attached to that. People think that, that folks are weak for having to go to therapy. But really and truly, it is the only place where you can get unbiased information, where the person that you're sitting with wants to see you achieve, wants to see you find success, and wants to see you repair and build in the right direction, without bias, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, in relationships, especially professional ones with business partners, he who can describe reality without blame ends up becoming the leader. And so, that is the success that I wish upon you on your journey. I guess the last question that I have for you, here we are, January 20th, 2026. And you've built these amazing brands. You've helped to build other brands. What are we looking to accomplish in 2026 and beyond? What does the arc look like? What is that next step, right? What does that next step consist of?
The first thing is becoming a better man, right? Getting closer to God, becoming a better husband, a better father. Those are my principles. Those are the foundation. I can't do anything else until I do that, right? As far as career, I want to continue to put repetitions in to get better at speaking, right? Because that's my number 1 goal. I want to build the business engine to over 1,000 people in my community, right? I have a business accelerator that I get people to come in and they learn all the different frameworks that I use to build Earn Your Leisure, to build InvestFest, to build all these communities. I teach it in my community, right? I want that to be over 1,000 people, right? This year. And of course we have InvestFest. That's the biggest business event in the world. I want to, have that be even bigger than last year. I want the experience to be, blown away. When you come to it, I want you to say, how is this possible? How did they do this? How did they get all these people in this one space for financial literacy? When people tell me that, that gives me why we do it. That's the purpose. That's the fulfillment. I want to build. I want to take Earn Your Leisure. I want to reformat Earn Your Leisure show. I want it to be more elevated in terms of the way it's presented. That is one of my goals this year. And EYL University, that's my baby. Earn Your Leisure was their baby, right? EYL, I birthed EYL University. That's our community we built. And I want to be more involved, face forward in EYL University. So those are the things I've been working on. I also, got new clients that I just added on. I got a new company that I purchased that I want to build out to. So this is, I gotta say this. I didn't even say this. AI is amazing right now. If I was like 20 years old right now, it would be like, I'll be like amazing. Yeah. Like these kids don't understand the power that, like I remember when I was 20 and people used to say that to me, like you don't understand what you have right now at your feet, at your fingers and stuff, right? And I'm like, whatever, yeah, I had it too. Now I'm the old man saying it to the kids that you do not know the power that you have today. But AI has given us a level playing field where your only limitation is your imagination. That's what AI has done for everybody. If I'm not a graphic designer, it's okay. If I don't know Photoshop, it's okay. I can imagine it, tell AI, and it'll do it for me. This is the only time in the human history that you can literally imagine something and build something. I literally built a whole entire website that I would have not been able to build with my coding expertise. I built it with my imagination and AI. So AI, the only limitation is your imagination. So that is, I had to put that in there because that is my line. I'm about to trademark it. I'm patenting it or whatever. But I'm serious. So it's like, yeah.
God, you are so driven. You're such an inspiration, man.
Thank you.
I want to stay in touch with you. I want to hear more about it. I want to say this. I am as impressed with both the level of success that you've achieved early on as I am with how you've done it. Building with friends is one of the most complicated, convoluted stress tests. I mean, for people that haven't done it, right? For people that are solopreneurs that have built companies on their own, not taking away anything from what they've done, but to build with people you love is one of the most difficult, but also the most rewarding thing that you can do. To take people with you on your journey. And it reminds me, I mean, I'm older than you by a few years, but there was this TV show called Entourage that was on like 20 years ago, where you talked about Brooklyn, where there was this guy from Brooklyn and he took his boys with him out to Hollywood and he put them on. And there is something so rewarding about being able to share this success with people that you love. And I hope that more people see the example of you and your two business partners and go, you know what? Our friendship has taken us to this point. Now it's time to professionalize the relationship because you're good at X, I'm good at Y, and he's good at Z, right? And like Transformers, we're gonna put the robot together and we're gonna be able to do to unlock so much more than we could have on our own. And it goes back to that whole Elliot Kipchoge, right? That runner that I was talking about earlier that ran with pacers and was able to break this 2 hour, this 2 hour marathon collaboration
Collaboration over competition, as my man MG would say.
Yeah, that's right. Right. Like not being able, you said, collaboration over competition, Louis Vuitton collabing with Supreme. No one would have thought it, right? But they did it and it brought more value to both brands. So keep preaching what you're preaching, keep delivering that education. I think you're on an amazing journey and it's just the beginning.
Appreciate it.
Congratulations.
Thanks for having me, man. It was great.
Yep.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
One of my most favorite interviews.
All right, man.
Appreciate it. All right, we got to keep in touch.
Be good, man.